I'm Peter Towers. Welcome to the ESS BIZTOOLS podcast. Debtors management needs attention is today's subject. Thousands of SMEs around Australia are in financial difficulties. A significant contributor to this strife is a lack of fiscal management knowledge. Accountants who are servicing the SME market are the obvious group of professionals that can offer assistance to SMEs, and in so doing will contribute towards a more professional approach by SMEs to the management of debtors. The CEO of MYOB, Paul Robson, wrote an article in the Financial Review in February of this year following a survey that MYOB had undertaken on people who were new to business and had been operating their businesses for at least 6 months. This review numbered a number of deficiencies, which we've categorised as debtors' issues, because Robson's evaluation was on all aspects of fiscal management, not just debtors. But what we're concerned with in this conversation is debtors management. He said the people did not understand that credit terms did not have to be offered to every customer. There seemed to be an assumption that if someone asked for something on account, that the business had to give it to them. That's not the case, of course. The businesses did not have a systemised approach to debtors management. And by that I interpret that they didn't have a credit application form, for argument's sake. They didn't issue a terms of trade agreement to their new customer. They didn't follow through with a welcome to new customer letter, which gave the business the opportunity to promote itself to its new customer. And they were not following up on things like analysing what was actually happening within their debtors, the debtors' days outstanding figure, not appreciating the need for the ongoing systematic follow-up to make sure people paid. And there also seemed to be an assumption that everyone that owed the money would pay it in full within 30 days. This was very much, I think, public service thinking that systems work and that everyone abides by overall trading terms. Well, we all know they don't. And it's very important that SMEs starting off in business understand this. Because what Paul Robson identified was that because there'd been an assumption that the credit accounts would pay within 30 days, that was how they'd calculated their cash flow forecasts. And because their debtors' days were significantly longer than 30 days, they ran into financial difficulties. He also commented on their understanding of obtaining credit from suppliers. Suppliers are crucial, of course, to most SME businesses. And the problem, as I see it, that the businesses had not approached the suppliers before they started business or before they acquired a business to ask them about what were their payment terms. And if they'd done that, they may have found out that many of the suppliers were going to impose fairly harsh payment conditions. Cash up with order, or cash on delivery, or maybe 7-day payment terms. But they'd made the assumption, according to Mr. Robson, that they would be able to pay on a 30-day basis. I think accountants have got a significant role to play in all this to make sure that people who you're talking to about starting a business understand the real facts of life relating to business operations. And those facts are not just straight out of a textbook. In 2016, Australia received a very dubious international award when an international organisation based in the United Kingdom announced that Australia had the longest debtors days outstanding in the world, 56.4 days. At the time, the Australian Small Business and Family Business Ombudsman, Kate Carnell, indicated that this was a national disgrace and that the government and large businesses should pull up their socks when it came to payments to SMEs, and that these payments should be made promptly. In fact, the then Australian Prime Minister ordered all federal government departments to make payments within 30 days of the invoice date. In 2020, the Australian Parliament passed legislation for the Payment Times Reporting Act, something we don't hear much about. And this was because in the intervening 4 years, there'd still been no improvement in the payment terms. Australia probably still held that very dubious world record. Whilst that legislation was intended to lead to a significant improvement in debtors' days outstanding, a review was undertaken in 2022, with the report being submitted to the government in 2023, which culminated in the government overhauling the Payment Times Reporting Scheme, which became operational from 1 July 2024. This legislation is targeted at the big end of town, businesses with turnovers in excess of $100 million, calculated on a group basis, consolidated basis. The penalties that have been introduced might appear to be a bit mild, but they can be very embarrassing for a company and the company's directors and leadership team members. Because if the company is within the slowest 20% of small business payers across all payers within, and also within their ANZIC group for 2 consecutive periods, the minister can then give a direction that the company must publish that they are a slow small business payer, and this must be disclosed on their website, in their financial statements and other documentation. It will be interesting to see whether this leads to a significant improvement by large companies making payments to SMEs. I really hope it does. And as a reward for the larger companies that do the right thing, the regulator will produce a report each year highlighting those companies around Australia who are making payments within 20 days or less of the invoice date. Time will tell whether these amendments to the legislation have had any success. The changes in the legislation came at the same time as the current Australian Small Business and Family Enterprise Ombudsman, Bruce Bilson, revealed a 50% jump in requests for help from business owners who are fearful that other businesses who owe them money have become insolvent, or who are worried about their own ability to make payments. Bilson said that payment disputes were an early warning sign of cash flow problems and can have a ripple effect that threatens the viability of other businesses. And it certainly does. Cash flow is the oxygen of enterprise. The difficult conditions mean when one party is late in paying, it can cascade through this support chain, Mr. Bilson said. Payment disputes are by far the greatest area of concern for small and medium-sized businesses and now account for 42% of assistant cases, up from 38% last year, that the Ombudsman's office handles. So that's the background. What's an accountant or bookkeeper's role in all this to assist SMEs in the monitoring of credit sales? I think you're in an ideal position, if you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, to be able to assist your clients or your prospects to implement systems and processes which will improve their ability to navigate the considerable obstacles that are presented to businesses once they agree to make credit sales and therefore have to operate debtors systems. Unfortunately, a lot of SMEs don't realise that accountants can supply a business service to them. They don't understand terms like advisory services. That's only for accountants and bookkeepers. And they've got very used to the norm that's been presented by most small and medium-sized accounting firms in Australia, that their prime activity is related to taxation matters. And I think SMEs accept that. They know taxation's a must for them to comply with. Otherwise, they run into problems with the government. But unfortunately, as a profession, I don't think we've conveyed to SMEs that you can offer additional services to just taxation, that you can help with the establishment of a proper debtors management system for your clients, that you can assist them with proper systems to monitor what's happening with debtors and keep them informed and try to reduce the problems that can come through the build-up of the balances owed by debtors. So it all starts with you conveying to your clients and prospects that you have an understanding of issues beyond taxation, that you can assist them. Now, you can either develop your own material to undertake these presentations to your clients, which will cover a whole range of activities, by having a form which will assist you to undertake a debtor's due diligence review to gain an understanding of the system that your client currently has and highlight the shortfalls of it. Will enable you to review what the system is for a new account applicant. Do they complete a form spelling out their name, their ABN, and what their business does, how many staff, what the turnover is? And do they supply credit references attached to that form? More importantly, does someone in your client's organisation then check that form and make contact with those referees to get their input on the person that's now applying for credit with your client? And what you might well find is that your client is potentially going to get someone else's problem, because the reason they're trying to open an account with your client is that they've run into some credit limit situations with their current suppliers. And does your client want to take that on? Is there a term of trade agreement prepared to go to this new customer, which spells out very clearly what the trading terms are from your client? If you're imposing 30-day payment terms, is that spelled out? And it should be on the tax invoice. This tax invoice is due for payment and whatever the date is in 30 days' time. If your client's not issuing statements, we should be specifying that in that agreement so that the potential customers put on notice. The terms of trade agreement and the retention of title agreement should be attached to this welcome to new customer letter. And the new customers should be requested to immediately sign and return that documentation so that your client can then decide whether they wish to register this new customer on the Personal Property Securities Register. And as you know, they need that documentation back. Then we need to go through and make sure that everyone understands the system. Has this new customer had certain requests of information to accompany each tax invoice. They may require a weighbridge certificate or a health certificate or some other documentation to accompany the tax invoice. And if they don't receive that, they will not pay for those goods. And this is one of the big components of problems with debtors' days outstanding and the ever-growing debtors ledger. And it's because clients who are running debtors systems forget the process. They've been told by their customer that they require this documentation. Unless they get it, in most cases, they won't pay until they receive it. And this is a real problem for businesses that are dealing with rather large corporations, because they tend to centralise their payment processes in an office which might be a couple of thousand kilometres away from where the actual business transactions occurring. And in those offices, they'd have invoices coming from all over the place. And if they don't get all of the documentation with them that they require, they just put them aside. So your client's payment times blow out probably at least 30 days more, and it could even be higher. And I've been in situations where I've been running seminars and people talk about debtors' days outstanding. And I find that I've got two businesses in the room, both supplying the same customer. And yet one guy, when I asked who regularly gets paid in under 35 days, his hand went up. And yet I've got a guy supplying the same company is telling me that, they're not very good to him. He's lucky to get paid in 80 days, sometimes 90 days. And when we examined what caused that by getting those two guys to talk, and they were mates, they knew one another. And the guy that was getting paid promptly said, Jimmy, I've told you time and time again, you've got to supply that documentation they want. And Jimmy's comments were basically, well, I don't know why they want that. And Bill, the guy that was getting paid within 35 days, response was, that's not your concern. They specified they needed that weighbridge certificate or whatever it happened to be, and you should supply it if you want to be paid promptly, like I'm being paid. I have a checklist that I tick off that is what I have to supply them. It's as simple as that. So it's making sure a system's been implemented, that people understand how it works, and that the documentation's supplied. So within the ESS BIZTOOLS system that we have developed, which we have continually improved over the years, we have used our knowledge, my knowledge, for a lifetime in accounting and for 25 years in developing material, which we have been selling to accountants in Australia and New Zealand on a wide range of issues, and most certainly debtors management. So you should be looking to see what happens with directors' guarantees, companies applying for credit with your client. Are they getting the directors' guarantees? Are they filing them? Are they making sure they keep them on a long-term basis, not just for 6 years, but for a long term? There needs to be an understanding in the client's organisation who monitors debtors. So the debtors management system that we've developed will assist you to implement. You can do all this yourself if you've got plenty of time. But we've got a system which, with our special price for our promotion that we have as part of BizAid to help you get hold of a resource that you can immediately use to generate revenue. But that resource will help your clients to improve their businesses. So the debtors management system is available for $300 plus GST for 12 months access. You can use that with as many of your clients or prospects as you wish, and you can then earn the fees. And hopefully by offering these services to your SME clients, you will be making a contribution to helping them to survive the very difficult climate that all SMEs, including your business, are operating in at present. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me. Send me an email, peter@eossbiztools.com.au, and I will get back to you. But if in the meantime that you've sat back and you've thought about this and you're interested, please go to our website, www.eossbiztools.com.au, and click on to packages and pricing, and then you can see the heading there, debtors management, and you can click on and make your subscription. And I look forward to welcoming you and your colleagues to the ESS BizTools membership process. Stay safe. Have a great day. Goodbye.